Our Caesar, we had Tiberius. Tiberius was born around 12 BC, and he died on March 16th, 37 AD. His full name was Tiberius Claudius Nero. His dad was Tiberius Nero, and his mom was Livia. He had a very hard childhood. His father died when he was 9, and he was then later adopted by Augustus, so he could be his heir when Augustus died. His mom died due to sickness later in his life.
Um, he eventually married Vipsania Agrippina, daughter of Marcus Agrippa. It was a very happy marriage. They were very in love. They had a son. Their firstborn was Drusus, and when she became pregnant later on in the marriage, she was forced to divorce him. Tiberius was forced to divorce her and was rushed into a marriage to Augustus's daughter, Julia. Julia loved Tiberius very much, but Tiberius was very bitter of her. They were fine living together at first, but he missed his wife a lot. One day he saw her and was so taken by heartache that she was rushed away, and she was locked away from him, so he could never see her again. So Tiberius conducted the Illyrian Revolt for 3 years. It was a tough war due to the lack of the supplies his army was given. Tiberius took an army to the east, where he restored the kingdom of Armenia to Tigranes, and then Tiberius also took 40,000 German prisoners and settled them into new homes on the Gallic bank.
He also gave the Roman people free loans for 3 years for relief in the economic crisis that they were having at that time. He then paid for rebuilding of certain blocks of houses on the Celian Hill, which had been destroyed by fire. Next is Tiberius's negative aspects. He forced Gnaeus Linnus Ager, a rich man in the Roman community, to name him his sole heir and force him to commit suicide by a nervous breakdown so he could have everything he had. Tiberius showed very little pity for his wife Julia. Instead of using the Augustus decree, which merely confined her to a single town that she could not leave, he restricted her to a single house with no visitors, due to his hatred for her. Tiberius also strengthened popular suspicion by his cruel treatment of Germanicus' wife Agripina and her children.
When Agrippina protested a little too boldly about her husband's death, which she suspected to have been murder by Tiberius, Tiberius took her by the hand and they were in front of a lot of people, at a dinner party, and he quoted, "And if are not my queen, my dear, have I then done you wrong?" After that protest, Tiberius had then invited her over to dinner one night and offered her an apple in the act to test her trust for him, and she would suspect that it carried death and refused it. In punishment of her violent refusal, he ordered Centurion to give her, to flog her, which meant to whip her or beat her, in which she had unfortunately lost an eye. She then decided to starve herself. That caused Tiberius to forcefully pry her jaws open and feed her himself to keep her from, dying of starvation. Now moving on to the personal characteristics of our Caesar Tiberius. One was he got very offended easily. on one occasion, a Roman guard had made a remark about military planning or just something, and was killed or poisoned from his one remark on Tiberius. So another one was he was very jealous, which, caused for a lot of murder, him to be very offended. Another one was he had a very corrupted mind from his torture strategies to killing methods. On one occasion, his own 2 grandsons were coming of age, and he wanted to have them honored. This caused him to be very jealous, so he decided to punish the oldest grandsons. One, Nero, was locked away on an island and forced to commit suicide. Another, Drusus, was locked in a cellar, and he was so deprived of food that he tried eating his own mattress. The bodies were later cut up into such small pieces that they could not be collected for burial. So if that doesn't say corrupted mind, I don't know what would.
Tiberius was also very selfish, self-hearted. He only thought of himself. He didn't have the interests of the people in his mind when he made any decision for Rome. He only thought of what he could do for himself and how it would benefit him in every decision. He also thought everyone's out there trying to kill him or poison him. He was very paranoid and didn't trust almost anyone. For Tiberius' death, the people were so relieved when he died. No one liked him due to his self-heartedness, so people were just so excited when he died, even though that's kind of sad, but they were so excited, and when they found out he died, they went around yelling, "To the Tiber with Tiberius." They prayed to Mother Earth to give him no home below except among the impious. There were threats to drag his body off with a hook and fling it on the Geminian stairs, where is a very popular place for execution among prisoners and anyone else in the Rome Empire.
In his will, he left legacies to several people, including Vestal virgins, with a bounty for every serving soldier in the army and every member of the Roman people, which was pretty nice of him. And then some people, there were several stories or myths to how he died. Some people believed he was given a very slow, deadly poison by Joss. Other people believed that when he had fallen ill and when he had requested food, he was refused, so starved to death. Or another was that he was ill, he tried to get up and leave, but he collapsed and died. Going back to the joy of the people, people also believed that he should be taken to Attila and he should be burned in an amphitheater. So that was pretty nice. Was Tiberius an effective leader? Yes and no. he was very effective defensive military leader. He was resourceful. His army was strong. He was smart in some ways. So, I mean, if you think about it, he was pretty good in fighting.
But he had lots of trouble with his people skills during his rule. Like we said beforehand, he was just not a good person, very self-centered, didn't trust people, paranoid, you could say. So that did not help his rule at all. With people, when you rule, you want people to like you want people to trust you, and no one did. So he was just not, half of his leadership was good, but then the other half was just kind of lacking, and the part that needs to be very high was just not there at all.
Opinions, they gotta be heard. Okay, so Tiberius is just this, like, really cruel guy, but it's like, I know it says that it can be traced, like, from his childhood, because it was so, like, hard and everything.
With his dad dying and everything.
Yeah, I mean, like, and then he gets older, he marries this woman he's just so in love with, you know, and then they have kids, and he is then forced to divorce her. And, I mean, you gotta think, like, did it change him? Because, you know, love changes people. Love changes you.
Like, could he have been a better ruler if he would have had his first wife with him? Would that have made his leadership more effective? Would people have actually maybe liked him? Because he would have been happy in his home life.
I mean, and then he marries this woman who's just, like, in love with him, and then he just hates her. She's just gotta go away. And so, I mean, that just makes him bitter, because there's, like, this nagging woman around all the time. And, you know, and she's just, so, I mean, anyone who you don't like and you're around that person, I mean, he's around her for, like, a long time. I mean, they're married. Whether he wants to, you know, recognize that or not, I mean, you know, and, you know, you're around people you just don't like, everyone's gonna be bitter.
Yeah, and it affects your attitude on all,
It
just
does.
like, let's just leave, let's just not.
Just go away. And so, you know, and then and then that gets him into doing all this weird, creepy, awful stuff.
All this stuff with him being so paranoid over people not liking him.
Paranoid and just cruel. It could just be because of Julia, okay?
A simple explanation to all of this.
There is. Love is... Love, you guys. It's just...
my goodness.
Hatred, just weird things, you know, so... Maybe it's just because of Julia. He could be so cruel, you know, and he just doesn't want to be around people, and he just... You know, there's such a simple explanation
there really
for this.
Is.
I mean, if he had stayed with, what's her name, first wife. Yeah.
It's all Augustus's fault because of that. He's like, you have to marry my daughter. Simple as that.
Yeah, so whoever's fault it is, they could be just the whole issue here.
It was blamed on them.
Yeah, I mean... If he had stayed with his first wife, he would be happy. He would have his kids, maybe grandkids. He would be happy, ruler, you know. I mean...
But they might not have celebrated his death the way they
maybe
did. They might have actually mourned, cried.
Maybe
just should.
Because of love, you guys. Just because of love. I mean, really, you just gotta think about it.
Something to think about there.
There is. Okay, our opinion.
It's kind of our opinion about all of this.
I mean, just love, you guys. So, there you go. That's our opinion, how we see it. Could all have been changed. So, thank you.